Hello everybody. So, made a few videos and I wanted to say why I was doing this. There's all kinds of great videos out there that tell us how to do certain things and tell us how to do, mechanics and plumbing and makeup tutorials and all these great things. Um, but in today's area, it's like everybody has lost track of all the basics, the very, very basics, which is why I've told people several times, one of the greatest ways you could make a how-to uh, life hack type videos, go get your grandpa's Cub Scout book and do those things. Because everybody's figuring out how to do all the most simplest things in the world. And with everybody being polarized politically, I thought it was important that we do something basic called language. Okay? Communication. All right? The key to getting along is communication. Okay? Communication is based on language. All right? Now, it can be sign language, it can be English, it can be a number of different things. In America, we primarily use English. All of the laws are written in English. And when you convert English to another language, it doesn't always go real well. Okay? We have, usually when words get misformed or misused, it's because it was done in translation. It was lost in translation. Um, so, this is something that has been fundamental and needed since the dawn of time. You have to have the ability to talk to each other, okay? And today, there's so much being driven about changing words and changing definitions and changing things. The way that languages typically work, okay, is there are a core set of words that everybody relies on. And then there's all of these other more technical words that everybody starts to do. Okay. Now, recently I've been doing the words, man and woman. Okay. These words are core words that have existed well before biology as a subject matter ever really existed. But it's something at our core we've done. We did this to group people and say, okay, well, I'm dealing with women, I'm dealing with men, I'm dealing with women and men, I'm dealing with this and that and the other. So the words man and woman have existed forever. And then biology came around and they were like, we talk about how, there's a bear and then there's mama bear and there's a cub. And, we have calves and we have this age-based changing. And biology came around and said, okay, let's organize all of this stuff. And we're going to organize plants, we're going to organize animals, we're going to organize everything. And they did it using existing language to conform it because we had already been doing it piecemeal all over the place. Man existed. Man was then put into biology as basically a combination. You're talking about the human species, you're talking about males, and you're talking about adult males. Okay, you're not talking about children males. You're not women. You're talking about adult females. Okay, but it's in the human species category. And so this is all rooted in our identification of a person's sex. And if you sit there and say, well, no, man and woman is based on gender. No, it wasn't. It was never based on gender, because gender identity stuff, while it has existed for 100 years of studying and work with, it didn't exist back in caveman days. They didn't do that. It was like, okay, you're a man, you're a woman. That's it. That was it. Okay? But these are core words. Every language on this planet has the core words for man and woman. Okay? Hombre. It doesn't matter which language you go to. They have it. These are core words that do not change. You don't get to sit there and do the whole, I'm going to change it. And so you see the videos of people, Matt Walsh, he's doing this whole, what is a woman? And he's trying to do this because he's trying to communicate with these people who've decided to change how words work. Words are how we get along. We write laws. Laws are agreements that we people have made and standardized to say this is a rule that we're all going to follow so that we can get along. Okay? No murder. Okay, well, what is a murder? Murder is a homicide that was done on purpose without legal justification. Okay? Self-defense, that's not murder. Okay? But they're both homicides. A person died. Okay, so we have a root structure of words that come down. All right? Now, sometimes words are combinations of that root structure. So you have human, you have male or female human, and then you have adult. Okay? You have that. Okay? Those are combinations. And other times in language, we've had other words, like, for example, homosexual. Homosexual is a basic word that means a person. They're talking about the human race, but sometimes they talk about animals in the same way. They're talking about a person who is attracted to the same sex. Okay? So you have homosexuals. Now, the LGBT community, okay, there is no T, that's different, that's a different subject matter. We're dealing with people who are talking about the sexual attraction to a type of person. Okay, so when you talk about people who are lesbian, they've separated homosexual into women who like women, gay, men who like men, and bi, either men or women that are attracted to the same sex, but also attracted to the opposite sex. So we've taken homosexual. All three of these are homosexual, but more distinctly, they are those three things. When we start getting into the cross-dressing style people, okay, for the longest time, okay, for well over 100 years, okay, we had transvestites, okay. Trans changed vestis from Latin. It's your appearance, it's your clothes. You're pretending to be the opposite gender, okay. There's nothing wrong with it. You know, in the old days, being gay was horrible. Okay, being gay today, who cares? Nobody cares. Okay, transvestite, I don't care. You want to dress around in whatever clothes? I don't care. You can be a transvestite. Okay, now as somebody who has a daughter who is transgender, it has become exceptionally difficult and very painful to see all of the transvestites doing a political maneuver to try to combine themselves with others to gain allies in their political agenda, to achieve whatever they're trying to achieve. And what they've done is they've taken over something and then they just stomped all over them. Now, transvestites for the longest time have always been kind of looked down on. Okay? It was kind of like, oh, you're weird. You're weird. Why are you doing this? You know, BDSM and girls who like to be called daddy or call their guy daddy, or guys who like to do this, or people who like to be. I don't care about your sexual fetishes. I really don't. I really don't. Okay? And nowadays people don't. It's not the same. It is. We have grown and evolved to sit there and go, look, we're going to step back and say, let you be you. And that's the way it is. But there was a new group that came out. And transvestites were people very well known for, lack of better words, pretending to be the other gender. They did it for all kinds of different reasons. And they did it, you know, one of my things is people are like, oh no, it hasn't been around that long. Excuse me? When I was a kid, we watched a TV show called MASH, Mobile Army Surgical Hospital. They were a MASH unit, had BJ Honeycutt and Pierce and Houlihan. And one of the characters who came on later after Radar left was Klinger. And Klinger didn't want to be in the Army. Oh, he didn't want to be. So he was being a cross-dresser. He was dressing as a woman in order to try to convince them that, oh, I shouldn't be here. I go against Army standards and all the rest of this, and I should get out of the Army, and you should give me a Section 8. He's doing it for the reason of getting out of something. Other people do it for, I don't know, some kind of, it's kind of sexually turn on or something. I don't know. Today, a lot of people are doing it for popularity. They're doing it to get likes and clicks, and they want to be the next YouTube star, or um, they're pretending. And people who pretend and act, it can have an effect on their actual human being. In the show MASH, Klinger, it got to the point where he could not. He's like, I can't wear the uniform. I don't know what it is. I can't even put it on now. It just doesn't feel right. I can't do it. He wasn't gay. He wasn't actually, trying to be a woman. He's just like, I've worn this so much, I just can't. There's a TV show called House. Hugh Laurie, great guy. As far as actor, I don't know him personally. He plays a doctor who has a limp. One of the muscles in his leg got messed up, but his character is distinctive. He's a jerk, and he has a cane, and he walks with a limp. Hugh Laurie did that role for over 10 years, and Hugh Laurie is physically fine. But after doing that show for 10 years, he started walking with a limp all the time because he had to for the show, and he did so much that it kind of offset the way his muscles work. So it's like, that can happen. There's also an old saying, if you lie to yourself so much, you begin to believe your own lies. If you hear a lie 7 times, or if you tell a lie 7 times, it becomes true. It becomes your reality. Okay? Your truth. Okay? The your truth thing is, it's a lie you've told yourself over and over and over, which is hilarious because, people started to embrace the whole, oh, it's my truth. It's my truth. Okay. It's your lie you've told to yourself over and over and over. That's the definition of a your truth. That's what that is. If you're saying it's my truth, you're saying, okay, this is the lies I've told myself over and over and over to the point where I actually believe them, regardless of reality. Okay? That's the difference from reality and actual truth. Okay? It's yours. It's a bunch of lies. That's what it is. But you believe them. Lies that you believe, they're your truth. There's some more English language for you. Getting back to the transvestites, what they did is we had this new category of people. Okay, now transvestites, they do this. They are concerned and consumed with what everybody sees when they look at them. People who are worried about pronouns, and I kind of got a little salty in my last one because I was really upset because you guys are hurting my kid. You're hurting my kid with what you've done here. They do this for an alternate reason. You're doing it for likes. You're doing it for gratification. You're doing it to get out of the Army. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You are concerned with outside responses to your appearance and your actions and behaviors. That's what you're concerned with. Okay? That's what you obsess about. You're doing that. But there was a new set of people who didn't care about the outside. They don't care about pronouns. They don't care about this. This has been going on for years. My daughter's been diagnosed for over 14 years. Okay, this is not new. All right? This is something that came around a couple decades ago, and it was people who, in their heads, as a mental disorder, don't feel they're in the right body. Now, there's been a bunch of laws and everything else that's come out and upset people, and I'll get to those in a second. But a transgender person, and I go into more detail about that in my other video, and I actually put in breakers so that you guys can, oh, this is just his background, what his life is. this is how you identify this, and I put some breakers so you can skip to where you want. And I go into more detail about it. But a transgender person doesn't care one iota, and they have very little time in their mind to think about what anybody else or outside influences think of them. That's not their problem. They do not think they are the opposite gender or a different gender or a gender neutral person. They don't think these things at all. So anybody going, oh, I'm gender neutral, all this stuff, out there bragging, YouTube channels, those are fakers. Those are fakers. They're pretending, okay? They are lying or pretending. So the word lying means that you're telling something that's not true and you know it, okay? Pretending is kind of a nicer way of putting it because you are lying, you know it, but you're doing it for jocularity, humor things. I tell my kid about the tooth fairy. That's pretending. There's a difference. Okay, so there's some more words that people need to understand. Okay, why do we have these words? To communicate, so we can get along, so we can understand each other, so that we can make agreements with each other and say, this is how I don't mess with you, you don't mess with me. That's how we get this done. We have talk and so forth. Okay, but there's a difference between somebody who's a transvestite and somebody who is transgender. These are completely different people. Now, actual transgender people have problems. Okay, one of the biggest one is the suicide rate. You heard about this way back ago, but you don't hear about it anymore. And the reason for that, the reason is that the transvestite community, okay, and the pedophile community and other communities jumped over towards transgender. It's just like when you say LGBT. No, it's not. It's LGB. LGB, lesbian, bi, or lesbian, gay, and bi. Okay? That is based on sexual attraction. You say it yourself. You have your sex, and that's, your body parts. I've seen that video, and she goes, it's about their sex, and this is about your gender. This is your outward appearance, and so forth. Yeah, okay. Then you're not part of the LGB community. That's about sex. That's about who you're sexually attracted to. It has nothing to do with gender. It's just sex. Okay? Not gender. It's sex. Okay? You want to form a trans community, and then you have the transvestites and the transgenders? Cool. The problem is that the transgenders have an actual mental problem, and it actually kind of sort of can get fixed when it's early enough on, okay? But if you don't know about it, you don't help, and you don't work with them, yeah, it's not going to happen, okay? And at a certain point, then it becomes unfixable, okay? There is a certain point where it just goes unfixable, okay? My daughter got to the unfixable part, didn't know what was going on with her, didn't know any of those things. I knew she had problems. I was trying to work with her on a bunch of different things, had her in a lot of counseling things, and it just, this part of it didn't come out, and then when it finally did, it got to the point it was too late. So she's going to be like this, and this is part of the thing that goes in with some of the laws. People were getting very upset that there was, don't say gay. Okay, they just said you're not allowed to discuss this thing with first, second, and third graders, and they got upset. And there's other people who are saying if you're under 18, you have to detransition. You're not allowed to do this. Yeah, they're going to say that. Okay, we have a list. We have a DSM book. Okay, DSM-5. It used to be the DSM-4. There's even newer stuff out now. The medical community has been working on this for decades. Again, a millennia, okay? They've been working on this forever, categorizing these mental illnesses and making differences so that they can provide better treatments for different specific things. And if you go into the mental illness section, okay, you have this type of thing. Now, when you have somebody who says, I am a woman. Okay. And this is one of the tactics that the transvestites use to try to impose themselves on transgender, because being a transvestite, you're just, you like to wear other clothes. Who cares? You like to have a pierced ear. Who cares? That's not a mental illness. That's not a mental illness. Just because you like to wear the other, who cares? It's not a big deal. It does not destroy your ability to go to work. It doesn't destroy your ability to do this. It just means you like to wear different clothes. Who cares? All right? It's not a mental illness. Somebody who hates themselves because they think that their brain is in the wrong body. Okay? And I go into more detail about why they become suicidal, and they know for a fact they're not in that body. They know that they will never be in that body. That is the pain that comes. They want this, and they know they can never have it. So anybody sitting there and saying, I'm a woman and they're a man, not transgender. Not transgender. What they're doing is they're faking a delusion in most cases. Or they're lying to themselves so much that it becomes, oh, that's my truth. No, you're still lying to yourself. It's still a lie. Doesn't matter if you've lied to yourself and it becomes your truth. It's still a lie. Okay? You've impressed yourself with wrong information so much you become an ideologue, and you cannot change it. That's not mental illness either. Okay? You've just lied to yourself too much. All right? You've not opened up your mind to the fact that you could be wrong. I can be wrong about a million things. Like I said, I just told you I lied to my kid about the tooth fairy. I mean, come on. Trust me, I'm also married, so I'm wrong a lot. So, they do this, and they've done this because for real reasons, medical reasons, this group, transgenders, actually have standing and need help. Transvestites don't need help. Nobody cares if you wear those clothes. Okay, well, you don't want to be oppressed when you go out and wear different clothes. Okay, that's fine too. You want to wear whatever you want to wear? I don't care. Okay? We've had this argument for me in high school. You think you guys are new? Boys showing up in school wearing skirts because they said you couldn't wear shorts? Yeah, it's been going on for years. It's going on for decades. We've seen it. Okay? Nobody cares whether you're wearing the other clothes. But do you have a mental illness? If you have a mental illness, that's an issue, okay? My daughter has a mental illness. She can be a threat to herself because people who are transgender are typically very suicidal, okay? They're never going to get what they want. Never. So when you see these, I saw these clips of Dr. Phil or whatever, and the guy is just, no, I'm a woman, and he's catching all this bad logic, and you're just like, why are they even having this discussion? Okay? If you believe something that is not reality, that is not the truth, it's a delusion. If you are delusional, that's a mental illness. Okay? It's not transgender. Transgenders are not delusional. Transgenders are not. So don't call yourself transgender if you're sitting there and you're delusional or even pretending to be delusional. Okay? That's called psychosis. That's called schizophrenia. Those are people who have delusions. Okay? It's a different set of people who have that. Okay? And there's a different set of people who fake that stuff. Okay? These are people who needed real help. And they were starting to get it. There was attention being brought to it. And the transvestites and the pedophiles went, oh, we see an in. We see an in. Well, we could become normal, and we could get our thing, and people will have to bow down to us now, and we can get them back. Oh, let's go do it. And that's what they did. That's why a lot of people sit there and go, you're being groomers. You're being, evil. You're being horrible. Well, you are. You are trying to throw in all of your little desires, regardless of how moral or immoral they are, and you are drowning the actual people who need help. Okay? As far as age goes, when you are young, kids are stupid. When I was a kid, I was stupid. I mean, when I was a teenager, I had the long hair, and I owned a freaking curling iron, man. I was a pretty attractive person back then. I know I've grown out of it. But I would curl my hair in the Aquanet, and I was the hairband kid. I was the rocker with the hairband. You know, Ozzy Osbourne, all that good stuff, all the way up to Offspring and all the rest of that. Loved it. Okay, and I started off with being that. Okay. Now, every generation has had a number of different cliques, if you would, of types of people that are out there. Again, I was that. There was the Dungeons and Dragons kids, okay? And today, instead of having the Dungeons and Dragons kids, like you saw in Stranger Things, and you have kids that want to go out and pretend they're a wizard, and they LARP it so much they even believe they're a wizard. My older brother, seriously? He believed he was Spock. He didn't really believe it, but he pretended so much he would even tell people, I'm Spock. I'm Spock. I'm a Vulcan. He had this one little bump on his ear, which is kind of a genetic rarity. And he was like, oh yeah, I'm Spock. I've got pointy ears. And they do this. Kids will do this. They want to reinvent themselves. Okay? This is why you cannot diagnose somebody with gender dysphoria. You have to have gender dysphoria in order to be transgender. Okay? It's like one of those little words. You're homosexual, and then you're one of these three. Okay? You cannot be transgender unless you've got the root piece, gender dysphoria. You don't have gender dysphoria if all you care about is what everybody else thinks. If you don't care what anybody else thinks because you're too busy and consumed with worrying about what you think when you see yourself, that's falling in line with being transgender. All the rest of these people, no, they're not. They're transvestites. And again, there's nothing wrong with it. I don't care. Go do your thing. But stop trying to superimpose yourself on the people who actually need help. Okay? And again, if there's another disease, I've watched a million movies and stuff, so I always use them as analogies. Sixth Sense. There was a movie, Sixth Sense, with a kid who's, I see dead people. They went to this funeral of a child who was sick all the time, and they were talking about it. And the kid goes and talks to the other kid, and they figure out what happened, and what it was is the mom, because the second kid was starting to get sick too, and they were talking about that. What it was is the mom loved all the attention that she got because her kid was sick, okay? And transgender, again, it's an illness, okay? It's a condition. It's a disorder. It's a something. These kids, they were sick all the time. She got the attention. She was the caring mother who always did this. Oh, we feel so bad. Oh, you work so hard. She was getting that, and she enjoyed it. It's called Munchausen's, okay? She was poisoning those children with rat poison. She was doing this stuff to her kids, okay, to make them sick, and eventually killed her children. That's child abuse being done by somebody who has a different issue. You're not being supportive of an ill child by poisoning them. You are not being supportive of your child by pushing gender stuff on them. You are doing it for the attention of yourself. You're not doing it for your child. You're hurting your child. If I could go back in time and help my daughter before she got to where she is, she would. You don't get diagnosed with bipolar until you are between 21 and 26. Maybe 18, 20-ish, maybe. Okay? You don't get diagnosed that way because the brain hasn't finished. Once it finishes, you're stuck. There are people who are predisposed to bipolar, and an event can cause it to kick, and then you're bipolar. But some people can make it through without getting it. They could be predisposed to being bipolar, and they can make it through. And if you're lucky enough, you can figure that out. Otherwise, most of the time, yeah, some event kicks it off, and that person's stuck being bipolar, and they have a condition for life. okay? But before then, it's treatable. And with being gender dysphoric, that is very treatable, I think, at younger ages. Once you get past all that stuff, and again, when you're a kid, you're confused. That's why they explore and they color their hair and they do this. Yeah, because their brains are growing and everything is crazy and their hormones are going rage wild and they don't know what to do. Yeah, you don't screw with that. You help it get back on track. You help it get back to being sane. We need the way the human race goes. You have children, they grow up, they become adults, they have children, you have grandchildren, and it progresses. This country is actually dying right now because we have fewer children than adults. You want to know why Social Security is not going to work? Because you don't have enough kids. The best shape for the growth of a population is like this. These are the oldest. This is the youngest. You have this shape that looks almost like this, okay? But right now, we look actually more like, go back a little. We look a little bit more like this. We're belly fat here. In the military, it works kind of like the way the military is. And we would sit there and say we're top heavy. Too many E6, 7, 8, 9. Too many up there and not enough E1s. Not enough on the bottom. You're getting top heavy. And then they work on it. They cut people out. They go, I'm sorry, but we need you out. Right now, we don't have enough apprentices and beginners to keep up with what's going on. Because if the population doesn't grow like this, getting bigger, okay, then you don't have a sustainable society. People are going like this. You're going to need more plumbers because there's more people. You need more truck drivers, more people to carry more goods. You need more electricians, more contractors. You need all of these people. And guess what? You don't have them. You don't. Society's going to die because you're not sticking to that. So no, you don't need to be messing with that because we need people. We are still animals. We need them. I can see this has been to about 32 minutes. I think that's the best I can get on anybody's attention span. So I'm going to drop it here. I'll probably come back and do another. I wanted to have a conversation that was not so me in a less salty mood. So enjoy.